guys, for episode 12. Today we are going to be going over how to make aerobic work sexy. Meaning aerobic work is good for many sort of different disciplines of fitness. Whether you're a weightlifter, whether you do CrossFit, whether you're a boxer, whether, like we go on about strength being good for everyone. I think a good bit of aerobic work helps keep the blood flow going, keeps the heart healthy, keeps everything moving around.
Oh yeah, it's
But getting it right. Now a lot of people I don't think know how to stay aerobic, and they make their aerobic work go into probably too hard end of fitness work. So it's like, what is aerobic work?
Yeah, aerobic work is key. It's one of your cardiovascular system. It's your foundation. It's your lungs, your heart. It's the way you transport blood around the body, the blood vessels themselves. And as we know now, in nowadays age, the cause of like heart attacks, heart diseases, high blood pressure is so common within people, just from a potential standpoint that the cardiovascular system is just not strong enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, aerobic work is pretty damn boring.
That's why a lot of people don't like to do it. It can be repetitive if you're on, but...
And it takes time. It takes a lot of time in the long kind of sense and standpoint of...
Well, we could put it down, it's just like the flexibility and mobility of work.
Yeah.
It's another tool to your training arsenal that needs to be fitted in to make your actual enjoyable training better.
Yeah, and it's the groundwork for everything. The same as strength is the groundwork for lifting, like moving and lifting weights and creating a resilient system. The aerobic work is alongside that strength in the groundwork. If you have loads of strength and you talk to kind of weightlifters who don't do the aerobic work and now like the old school style, it's just like lift heavy every fucking day, like get ridiculously strong, but then it comes to walking up a set of stairs and they're out of breath, like that's not right. And now they've started to realize that, and now the schools are changing where they'll put in easy, steady work that gets the heart and the cardiovascular system fitter. But
It's heart health, isn't it? Basically, it's heart health. It's a good way of looking after your heart. So, even like bodybuilders now, same thing. So bodybuilders would, when they're cutting, they would obviously do their low intensity aerobic work to burn fat, and then probably in the off season they wouldn't touch it. But now we're seeing a lot of bodybuilders continuing to do the aerobic work through, obviously maybe not as much as when they're cutting, but they're still keeping it going to keep blood flow going, keep the organs healthy, and keep a bit more keep the blood vessels moving around.
And I think the key is and that's why we say it's pretty damn boring. It's not a sexy thing. You don't see people posting on Instagram about, I just hit my aerobic work, because in a bodybuilder sense, from what I've seen, it's just walking on a treadmill.
I think most bodybuilders, like from myself, I think when I was doing my low, just my low aerobic work, it was on the stepper.
Yeah.
The Stairmaster.
You just like moving.
Just move, walking up them stairs.
Yes, and that's how simple it is, and that's how, as we said, it is pretty boring in its purest sense. Unless you love like marathon running or long distance running where it's really, really slow, or cycling, stuff like that. Unless that's a complete passion, but then you'll still get that kind of potential mix and blend of energy systems and get a little bit of away from the pure aerobic, and that's what we're talking about at the beginning, but we'll go into how you can integrate that into a good training program. But yeah, in just as its purest sense, walking. Like people don't give walking the credit where credit's due, really, because it's a very rhythmic thing. You've got movement in your shoulders. If you're not like walking like a fucking board, you've seen some people shuffle like that.
Yeah.
But there's movement, hips, knees, ankles. There's rhythmic movement through the shoulder, and walking is your most basic aerobic work.
And it's and that can be used for many other things as well. So not only just your aerobic work, but if you do it after, say, your last meal, in the day, you can use it, go out for a walk, and also it's like a de-stressor. So if you're not going out and obviously listening to something through the headphones that's pumping you up, but really thinking about chilling out, trying to disconnect from some of the digital stuff, and then setting yourself up for a better sleep, which ties into, you know, our sleep podcast. These all roll in hand to hand. That's what we're trying to give you here with all our podcasts, is that if you go through them, there's all these little bits just roll into each other and help each other out, you know, to make it overall better, get things right.
Exactly, and getting out and walking after a meal, like we're not talking about running, depends on how fucking bloated you feel or how heavy your meal, but like a really slow walk, as you said, it helps de-stress and it'll help the digestive system that goes back to the nutrition as well. Yep. So yeah, I think, and that's just another, like we've talked roughly like a thing about building habits, and we're going to do more stuff on habits and just building daily routines. But that's another part of it. You've eaten, it's a way to get in some good sustainable aerobic work, and you've just stacked it on top of something that you already do. I know that's great. Yeah, go for once you've eaten, get out and just walk for 10 minutes. Yeah, nice and easy.
And that's aerobic.
When it's sunny, you get some sun on your skin, and it goes back to as you said, all ties in. But yeah, just like to go back to the cardiovascular system, why we want to strengthen it. As I said, the system, like, it's a transport system around the body. It's the heart, the blood vessels, lungs, the blood itself, and it helps to circulate nutrients, oxygen, which we all know is incredibly important to live, helps to move carbon dioxide out of the body, and then just helps with hormones, blood cells, blood regulation, and just general maintain what's homeostasis, just maintain living. It's such a vital part to the body. The brain's obviously the computer chip.
Yeah.
But the heart and the cardiovascular system is the engine. Go back to the car analogy. Yeah, you can have an ECU chip and an ignition starter, but if you've not got an engine, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to do a thing. So it is really important, I think, for like I say, depending what sport you're playing, or just depending if it's just your normal life.
Yeah. Just
putting it in. You know, we all know that aerobic work can help burn fat, helps sustainability, longevity. It all ties in. Obviously, with the burning fat, that's where we go back to the nourishment side, and you've got to be work your calories out so you can work on to burn it. And you know, you hear the things as well. I do all my aerobic work fasted in the morning. It's one great way, but I think putting in that aerobic work anywhere of the day really doesn't matter. I don't think it matters first thing in the morning or in the evening. If you've got your calories right, that's what's going to make you lose the fat. Obviously, doing the aerobic work will help that. But doing it, I've got to do it fasted in the morning. Hey, I enjoy doing it like that, mainly because I don't like having a breakfast first thing. But I don't think it makes much of a difference.
I think burning the fat. It's more because food is like more of a 36-hour investment. You're going to have less blood, glycogen stores, less blood sugar, so you might get into that fat burning zone a little bit quicker. But then at the same time, there is a level where you go into the fat burning energy system in relation to where you work. But the only way you're ever going to truly find out what that is for each individual is by doing not VO2 max testing, but doing lab testing. There's where you get people linked up to like masks, get them on treadmills, and there is certain heart rate zones, where you do go into different energy systems, because as I said, you've got
those heart rate zones actually work with different ages as well, don't they? So it's
going to be individual to everyone. You can't just say,
do this heart rate.
Jog at 120 BPM, and you're going to be in that kind of like fat burning zone. It doesn't work like that. And then it's going to change for every discipline. So the only way you can truly find out that is if you go to a university, and I think most of them you can probably volunteer. They like doing testing on people. But you go to a university and they will be able to give you the data. But trying to just say, I went for like a nice steady walk and I was in the fat burning zone, you don't know. But as long as you're getting out and moving.
That's it, out moving.
And that's the key thing. And the bigger your aerobic system base, like we talked about with the strength, the better your recovery, the better your strength gains. Like, to revert back to why this system's so important in terms of circulating blood, nutrients, getting oxygen in, getting carbon dioxide out, nourishment. This is going to be huge for your recovery, as you said with the bodybuilders.
Yeah, and it's just it's a base, isn't it? So I always like to explain to people, like, if you're trying to peak for a certain element of sport, this obviously doesn't go if it's just like normal lifestyle, but if you think, when we want to generate and peak up fitness, okay, if I like looking at the stairs, so if we're looking like, let's look at a 12-week peak, just like, or like a boxer in a camp. Like, I always revert back to fighting because I love it. But you know, you're gonna take those 3-4 steps up, okay? But then you have to come back down. You can't just stay in that element of peak fitness. Your immune system is going to be under a lot of stress. You're eventually going to break down, and then and that leads into burnout and stuff like that. So once you've peaked for whatever you're doing, if it's a competition or something, normally you have that back off, but you'll come down to a base level, and that base level is where the aerobic work is key.
Yeah.
Because that will stop you from dropping below base.
And the bigger your base of aerobic work, the more steps you can go up.
Exactly. So if keep that base, next time you go up, you might go an extra step, and then you won't come down back
maybe
to
sustain
your base.
A bit higher.
Exactly, and it just generates over a year. You'll see a better overall pattern of fitness and gains. So base is really important, and that's why you got to think: why do boxers go running? It doesn't improve their boxing, but what it does, it can help them keep that aerobic base all year round. So even when they're not in a training camp, you know, fighters get caught up and they like to go do their road runs, and you know, they can do it every day because they've built up the capacity to do that. But that is now their aerobic work. Running for most people is not going to be aerobic, especially if you're a bit overweight. And the biggest mistake you see, I love it when you're driving down the road and you see these overweight people running. Fair play, they're out, they're moving, that's great that they're doing that, but what they've got to understand is that as soon as they step out of that aerobic zone, they're not really going to be burning too much fat now. It's going to go into more muscle energy. They'd be better off walking, get the weight down. Like, as soon as you run, then that's where we can look at, you know, how do you know if you're in aerobic? So it's normally like once we go 60 seconds and more, we start to go into that aerobic.
Yeah, the energy, you've got like 3 energy systems, and kind of we'll go back to this, but just because we have all of them doesn't mean you should use all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the aerobic system's the thing that's gonna, once you go beyond 60 seconds, you're starting using oxygen as a fuel. This not saying like everything that's beyond 60 seconds is pure aerobic, because it's not, because then you don't just get one or the other, you get like a merge, a mix of all of them. And then in relation to doing a workout in the gym with weights or tough contractions, you go into like you get elements of muscle endurance, so how your muscles are fatiguing due to the sheer amount of contractions or the strength of contractions.
Yeah.
So yeah, aerobic work, the more long term, the more sustained it is, the likelihood that you're going to get aerobic is possible. Because if you said to someone, okay, we're going to do a 2-minute row, try and row at aerobic pace, they'll find that really easy, and they'll be like, well, yeah, that's like, I rode at like a 150 and for 2 minutes, and I'm a little bit heavy, but it was only 2 minutes. Whereas if you said, okay, now when you rode for an hour, the pace is going to look completely different.
Just be up and down, and then that comes down to on the row as well. There's a lot of technique, but it's like staying aerobic on the row is quite challenging.
Yeah,
for a long time.
And that's the thing, you're more likely to hit the aerobic stimulus for the hour, because psychologically you've got to go for longer, so you're going to slow the pace down.
Yeah.
Whereas that 2 minutes might have had a little merge of aerobic in it, but predominantly it would have been muscle endurance. It would have been a lot of strength pulling, different energy systems take over. But yeah, back to the point, like you start to use oxygen as a fuel post 60 seconds. So, but then, as I said, it's trying to understand what aerobic feels like.
Yeah.
And that's the key inside the gym. Like, I think for quite a long time, it was like, okay, you need to, or there's still the myth around, like, if you're not on the, like, if it doesn't hurt, you didn't get, no pain, no gain.
No pain, gain,
around. And people take that quite literally in terms of, like, workouts, per se. Whereas aerobic stuff, you should come off feeling like, you sweated, you've moved. but feeling like, okay, I could have done that again.
I could do that again. Sustainability.
Exactly. So that's the key, massively key word. So that's sustainability with like whatever you're doing, intervals or time, or it's just something where you can finish and be like, okay, that was good, but I could go again. But you felt your body doing some work.
Yeah.
A lovely way I like to talk about it is like you should be able to hold a conversation.
That's it. You should be able to talk.
There you go.
You should be able to talk. And that's on all of them. So whether you've got a bike, a rower, even a skier. Now ski can be challenging to stay
A
away
little bit of a
from.
different movement. I know there's stuff, I can't remember who was talking about stuff about how when the heart actually moves in space, it creates a different stimulus. Whereas like a bike, but even like walking or running, like probably being out, I know I have, been out walking, you're doing a pretty hard hike. You start to get out of breath and you can't like talk as easily.
Especially if you hit some hilly routes.
Your words, like there's bigger gaps between words, and it's like, okay, I'm like, this is getting harder. Like it is still an aerobic kind of stimulus, but at the same time you're dripping into other energy systems, or you're going away from pure aerobic work. And that's why it's pretty boring. Because it is slow.
It's slow,
and it takes time.
It does take time.
The good thing is the stress response on the body compared to other things. Like you do a 2-minute max out workout, or you do a heavy set of deadlifts. You're going to be fried afterwards. You go out for a walk for an hour. You're
going to be pretty relaxed and still ready to go. And that's what we were talking about. That's the difference. So you'll see like the HIIT training sort of approach. Right, I need to burn some calories. I need to lose some weight. And we look at then the intensity. Once the intensity levels rise up, and this is where we try and say, look, you've got to focus on balancing everything out again. So like if you've got a heavy day at work and you've got intensity, and then you're throwing in some HIIT training intensity, too much of that high stress, doesn't really leave your body to recover very well.
You're gonna like a full bucket of water. You keep adding water to a full bucket, it's going to overflow.
It's just going to keep spilling over.
You're going to get wet.
It is about finding that balance and understanding, working with. This is why we go on about lifestyle so much, because it's so important, and it's where I use that term. Like you come in for the hour of your session to benefit your life, but then the next 23 will benefit that hour. So they work hand in hand, and you can't go against the grain. So I'm saying if you have got a high intensity and you're trying to do HIIT training, and then you're trying to do some hard lifting as well, maybe just take note, see how you feel after 6-7 weeks of doing that.
I think like the great thing about aerobic work and just general movement, everyone can do it, and it will support everyone's goal, just like strength. It will support everyone's goal in a sense, but then it will supplement your lifestyle massively. So
especially when you haven't got any of these things in place. So if your sleep is rough, if your nutrition's off, all of this is not going to work very well hand in hand. They all have to tie in, look at it just in a loop circle. Sleep, nutrition, training. Sleep, nutrition, training.
The building blocks for longevity. We know that kind of with age comes atrophy. So just the breakdown of muscle. Like it's why the humans age, why things degenerate, why we get older. Like it's a natural occurrence. Whereas if you can go back to kind of the stairs analogy, if you can build as many steps as possible within strength and muscle, then it will take a lot longer to atrophy. You will eventually, but you'll take a lot longer to atrophy to get down to the point where you can't move and can't feel. And as we said, aerobic work is so important to strength. You can build strength, but if you want to recover from it, if you want to get the good nutrients to the muscles to then repair and regrow in the correct manner, aerobic work's your base. So that's how aerobic work can help sustain life for so much longer, and quality. We spoke about quality like just as much as quantity. But I think in terms of how you would put in aerobic work, I think you've done loads of this stuff.
There's so many different ways you can do it. So obviously, if you're looking at, let's just take it for instance. Let's go and look back at when we done our hypertrophy. podcast and we gave you a 3-day full body split over 3 days, how would you mix your aerobic work into that? So you can mix your aerobic work on your single resting activity days.
Yeah.
So a rest day, for some days, one of my rest days, I call it an active rest. So I'll do some steady aerobic work. So I'll either go out for a nice long walk, or if I'm in the gym, I will do maybe some... I love mixing up interval work. So I like doing like the row and the bike, and I'll do something like 20 calories on the row, straight into 20 calories of the bike, and maybe into like a plank hold for like 20 to 30 seconds, and just keep that rotating round steady. So same thing, like I'm holding a talking pace, but I put in some isometric work, which can really help cardiovascular as well. Simple as that. Or you can put it in separate to your training sessions. Like, again, some people like to do it fasted first thing in the morning, or do it later on. Like, I think a good way is if you are going to lift weights, get your late weight session done first. I think hold on more for that. You can put your aerobic work right on the end, 30-minute light cycle or 30-minute easy aerobic after your weights would be good. Or again, get out and walk in the evening. There's your aerobic work.
Yeah.
There's so many ways you can make it work. I don't think there's a real way of like, oh, you've got to do it this way. I think the main thing you've got to focus on is, are you keeping it aerobic? And I think that's where most people step out of it. So they'll go, oh, I'm going to do my aerobic work, I'm going for a 5k run. And like I say, if you've not got that capacity, like we all know most of us can go for a 5k run, but can I make a 5k run aerobic? I'm pretty after 5 minutes. I'm not aerobic anymore. I'm just like, holy shit, I'm just, you know, and that's what I'm trying to say. Is understand of keeping it all aerobic. So I think it doesn't really matter where you do it. I think fitting it in is the most important part for your schedule. Whether it's morning, evening, around your training, separated from your training. There's so many different ways. So I'm not going to say there's one right way, because everyone is different. But just keeping it aerobic, I think, is the main focus to look on it.
And that making sure, like as you said, the way we like to talk about it is like hold a conversation. Go out with someone, make it a social event the way you can hold a conversation. You got other ways in terms of, like, I know nasal breathing become quite a big thing in relation to like doing fitness, and only that kind of, I haven't done massive amounts of reading into it, but a part of that, it keeps you in an aerobic, more relaxed state, and you're going to stay more aerobic if you're in that, like, that parasympathetic nervous system. You're like in a rest and digest, relaxed state. As soon as you go too hard and you find you're having to fight for mouth breathing, then you start to flip the nervous system. You get a little bit more stressed, and then you're going away from that relaxed aerobic state. So that's just another tool in the toolbox to create an aerobic stimulus, but then just throwing a different name on it. Like, go out for a walk and try and stay like nose to mouth or nose to nose breathing, and see what happens to your pace. You'll probably find, okay, I probably sustained quite a steady pace.
No, I definitely, when I go out for my long walks, I try and keep my mouth closed and do it all nasal.
Mrs. probably loves that.
No, well, I'm talking when I'm on my own. and with no children.
Okay.
Listen, when I go for a walk with the children, that's not aerobic anymore. That's intervals training.
I was going to say, that's quite
but that's one really good way to start working on some nasal breathing and stay nice and calm. Going for, normally when I go for a walk, I look to do 5k. Yeah. So it's around the hour, maybe sometimes out the hour, and just I like to listen to a podcast. It's the only time I really get to listen to them. And you
listen to Infamous podcast.
Yeah, listen to Okay. So there you go. Nice. Listen to this podcast. Try some nasal breathing on that walk. So keep your mouth shut. No chewing gum.
Someone will probably love it as well.
And it works well. And even trying to incorporate that onto the machines is really good. So sometimes if you are looking just to move aerobically and you're not worrying about too much pacing, sometimes we do know it's good just to like move that monitor out the way. Just move. Breathe.
Don't worry about it.
Unless you are doing an aerobic pattern where you are looking to generate and build pace, then you do need to look at the data and see what you're doing. But generally, most of the time when we're doing like 30-minute aerobic session, you don't really need to look at anything. You just need to move. You can tell it's working. You'll get that light mist sweat. You'll be able to control your breathing. And there you go. That's aerobic.
Yeah. And I think like in relation to gym, inside a gym through rower, bike, and like ski work or kind of any any cardiovascular equipment. There's loads of different ways. You can do the long and slow, or you can do interval training. But I think the big misconception with interval training is it's normally quite long work, very short rest.
Yeah.
Whereas with aerobic, we know that like you want to have long periods of rest. You want to be fully recovered to a point where you're standing there twiddling your thumbs like, okay, like I'm ready to go
now.
I was ready to go 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But so in relation to like a 4 minute piece on the bike, take 4 minutes rest.
Yeah,
really recover.
You don't feel like, I've got to have 30 seconds a minute. I'm cutting myself short. No, stay aerobic. Like repeat again. So if you are using the data, see if you can hold that pace. Repeat. Sustainability. You're now building up that aerobic pace, and you're going to understand it a lot more, and it will add up in volume over time. Like I say, we keep climbing up the steps.
And that's another thing. It's another way to increase volume, increase the capacity of a muscle by doing not every just to increase capacity. You don't need to do everything hard and fast all the time. You can increase capacity by just moving, like sitting on a bike. If you and this is one of the big things, and I fucking hate the assault bike. As we probably all know, and you've said to people, is like the only way you get better is do it more. Doesn't mean you have to do 1 minute max cows every day.
Yeah, listen, try sitting on the assault bike for 18 minutes.
Just move.
And staying at, not your 10-minute test pace, obviously. But, it's one way, there's different ways of building up on especially the assault bike. If you know what the assault bike is, it's a very challenging bit of kit, but it's great for fitness. It's, for long range, mid range, and short range.
Yeah, and just sitting on it and moving.
As we go, the pain, gain, and sustain.
There you go, exactly. And that's the key word. Like the aerobic stuff is all about sustain.
All about it.
And I think another point that away from just the pure cardiovascular improvement, and something that I know we speak about and you go talk about in a session, is being it allows you, because you're going at a slower pace, it allows you to be more mindful and practice more mindful movement. And that's the great thing. If it's a workout that's 2 minutes long and it's hard and fast and you've got some complex movements, you're trying to go hard and fast, so you're not going to really think too much about them. You just want to get through them. Whereas an aerobic sustained pace, you can focus on movement.
And that's where if you are into CrossFit, that's when we can look at aerobic and cyclical, and then taking it into a mixed modal environment. Meaning
mixed modal.
So mixed modal meaning that we're now going to bring other elements in. So you could bring in then a gymnastic movement, a weighted movement, but keeping them moving rotationally in an aerobic manner. So now you've brought your aerobic work in with movement. So you could do we call them a flow, or I know OPEX, it's like map work.
Yeah.
So map 10 meaning real walking sort of pace.
You're
map 1 blowing out your arsehole.
And that's, you can get quite, it doesn't need to be solely sit on a bike, sit on a row, go for a walk. In the gym you can get quite experimental with it, as long as you understand the fatigue, the factors you get from individual movements. We've been doing the constant variance.
It's
a great workout because it teaches people what movements they're really efficient at, what movements they're not.
Yeah, it shows you what components work with each other, what components don't work with each other, how efficient you are in your movement, because we know that when we're inefficient in any movement, you expend way too much energy because your body's under a lot of stress and it's not getting any recovery rate. So a good way of explaining this is if you look at a back squat, as you're moving through that range of motion of down and up, you're under constant tension. So that's why your muscles are working really hard and using a lot of muscle endurance. Where if we take that movement similar to a movement wall ball, now there's only one part where you should be under tension, and that's coming out of the wall ball. The rest of it is pretty much you're moving with gravity. So once you've thrown the wall ball up to the target, you don't need to wait for it. You can start to already move down. So you've taken a lot of the eccentric loading of the weighted ball out, because you're now going to sort of near enough catch it down into that squat and then explode back out. So you can see there's a short point of contraction which will help you save energy. Now, we know when we see the wall ball, and we see it quite a lot, people not moving efficiently with it, we see that big hinge, we see that big drop of the ball. So now they're under more...
Catch it high, slow
now the
down.
muscles are working harder because they're not getting any rest. They're not getting any switch off point. And that's, you know, they're only specifically working with CrossFit, but that's where we see that movement is very important to understand aerobic work as well.
Yeah, and if you can keep it aerobic, keep it slow, you
know,
focus on
we
the
know
right
if we get on a row and you don't know how to row properly, you're pretty much not going to be able to get into an aerobic pattern straight away.
You'll just be like, oh, my arms are really burning.
Yeah, because you're just going to be hunched over, you're going to be moving out of time, and you're going to go way out of aerobic, where if you work on, once you learn how to row, then obviously you're going to know how to control it and stay aerobic on it. So that's where movement comes into aerobic work. Obviously not so much with the walking, because we do that all day, but
right, I don't know.
certain patterns, it's all ties in hand.
But I think, yeah, we've been, like, the main part is we're talking about, like, long endurance stuff. However, you can still make a 60-second work piece aerobic.
Yeah, easily.
Like, it takes practice, like everything. It takes practice, and that's where we say you get a little bit of a merge, a little bit of kind of crossover on me between different energy systems.
Yeah.
However, if you train correctly, and it goes back to the same, 60 work, 60 rest. If you train the same movement correctly and start to understand efficiency and understand where your aerobic capacity is at, then you can stay under that aerobic threshold and just build a different, go back to the car, build a different set of gears.
Yeah.
I like to think of it like gears, like your 60 second is quite a small gear because the turnover is nice and quick. However, you can still keep it aerobic, whereas your hour walk is like your gear 6. It's like a lot slower RPM, but it just goes for longer and longer and more sustainable. So, like, working from a place, the best way I've found this, and they talk about it, James Fitzgerald talks about it, is like start high, build to low, because it's an easier progression.
Yeah.
Because the high stuff is naturally going to force you into going aerobic, because you try and run, unless you're Kipchoge, you try and run your 100-meter sprint for a marathon. You're not doing that.
Never.
You're definitely not doing that.
Never.
Unless you've got all like Nike paying millions of pounds to sponsor you and help you over.
Yeah.
But no, that's not controversial. Ridiculous feat that was.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is start high with this stuff and slowly build it down, because it's easy, and like
I say, it just adds into your longevity of life. Keep yourself generally fit. Keep yourself generally strong, and you'll have a better overall outlook and output in life. You know, it's important. I go on about longevity more. If you looked back at when I was 20s, it was quite different. But now it's like, it really is important. I think aging now is important. We've got so much around to make us live a longer age now and be healthier in our older age, where, if we go back a few decades back, people would get old and they'd really look old.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't as much output as general, get fit. There wasn't the big gym chains around, and so it's evolved quite a lot. And if you put this all into work, I think everyone likes to now pretty much have a general bit of fitness.
Oh yeah. It's seen as, it creates longevity. It creates life and fuller years, and we've. But then at the same time, with that, with the accessibility of training and everything like that, and it being more in the forefront of people's mind, people forget the most natural element, and that is the aerobic work, that is the walking, that is the slow stuff that gets you breathing at a pretty easy rate, but builds your capacity for life. Everyone thinks it needs to get super fancy. It does.
It's just simple work.
It's simple work.
We will put on our Instagram, following up this, we will put some, if you look on there, we'll put some clips on different variations of aerobic work. We'll show you just an interval aerobic work. I'm not going to put a walking on there. I don't think that would be very interesting to look. But we will definitely put on a mixed modal aerobic work pattern workout that you could try at home. So whether you've got a bike or even if you're out on a walk, we're going to throw in some movements that you can understand that setting of a mixed modal 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute block that you can do. So stay out, stay looking out for that. So if you're not following us, get on Instagram, follow Infamous Performance Podcast. If you've enjoyed a lot of these shows, push the like button, subscribe, keep your alerts on so you know that you can see up to date.
Yeah, and I think the key things from this is like if you want to live longer, do aerobic work.
Get your aerobic work.
If you want to get stronger, do aerobic work. If you want to get out of pain, do aerobic work.
Yeah, it can have so many good effects.
It's
down the road.
Massively.
And mainly stay away from them horrible diseases.
Yeah, we in the last decade, I believe it is, the top 5 causes of human death are now down to lifestyle, rather than nature or accidents. So, and the majority of them are heart diseases,
and stuff like that. Diabetes is on the massive, biggest it's ever been.
We're not saying you're gonna cure heart disease by going walking, but you can do a pretty good.
You can help yourself out.
Yeah. So
that's most of the aerobic fitted in, I think. Before we blamble on and make it boring.
Yeah, just try
put some of these into play.
Yeah, like it can be boring,
like with
but
everything.
you can make it sexy.
And it doesn't need to be every day. Like you could, like I say, work it into a schedule that remember lifestyle, gym, aerobic work. Make it all work well, so it all benefits and helps out.
Or as you said, the perfect way to do it is add it onto something you do already.
Yeah.
Go eat, have after every meal, just go out for 5-10 minutes.
10 minute walks.
Super relaxed.
Nice little bit of aerobic work, helps the digestion, clears the mind, sets you up. Get that warm up routine which I go on about to get you sleep in, and that's that. So next episode, got some supplements we're going to go over. Well, I think we're going to go through creatine and vitamin D. Very, very widely studied supplements. They both work. They're not supplements on the shelf that just look great and don't do much. These really are beneficial to the human body with strength training and just overall well-being. So we're going to go through that, explain what they do, how you get them.
And now summer's coming. Vitamin D is
pretty much free.
But just got to make sure.
But understanding that as well, and and it is where look what happens. Aerobic work ties in. Get out, walk in the sun. Hitting 2 birds with 1 stone.
It's too much knowledge for one day.
Yeah. So we're going to leave that there, guys. Thanks for listening in. Tune in for the next one. Peace out.
A-Town.